This book here was from World War II on it.
Yeah, you showed me this. I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, this is my diary from Korea.
This has got Japanese phonetic spellings.
Mm-hmm.
Come out, don't be afraid. It isn't dangerous. We will not shoot. We'll give medical aid. We give water. Come here. If you don't come out, it'll be bad. Come out, we won't shoot. We give food. Raise your hands. Take off your clothes. Why would you say that?
Well, make sure they didn't have weapons.
Be quiet, sit down, stand up, move out, march. Where are the soldiers? Are there any others in the cave? Did you ever have a chance to say that?
No. They didn't get close enough to talk to them.
Stop, halt, son of a bitch.
This is where I was keeping track of my time in Korea.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The days, huh?
Yeah.
Calendar?
Yeah. I wish I'd have kept more in a diary. I wish I'd have kept a diary all the way through.
Yeah, you said you had one, but it got destroyed, didn't you?
I had two small ones that went before this, and they got messed up with the moisture and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then, I don't know what happened to my original notes from Iwo. I had a closet full of stuff that disappeared
Oh, really?
at home there. They didn't take care of it.
So let me just, for the record. Your name's Art Laporte. You were born September 16th, 1926. So right now you're probably 72 now, right?
Yeah.
You went into the service in 43 to 46. And then you were in from 48 to 52 over in Korea, I assume, right?
Yeah.
In the U.S. Marine Corps. And you reached the rank of sergeant.
Right.
And your training pretty much was mainly on machine guns, you said?
Yeah.
What'd you do with them? With the machine guns?
Well,
You're a gunner.
Started out as a ammo carrier.
Uh-huh.
Then you work your way up to assistant gunner, then squad leader. I would have been a section leader had I stayed a little bit longer.
Now, what's the difference between a squad leader and a section leader?
Squad leader would be one squad, section leader is two squads.
How many men in a squad?
Around 6 or 7.
And at Iwo, what was your capacity there?
I was an ammo carrier.
An ammo carrier?
Yeah.
For what? I mean,
We
what
didn't,
kind of ammo were you talking about?
well, for the machine gun.
Uh-huh.
Belts. You carry one in each hand, and 250 rounds in each belt. Contains one belt each canister. And can, you might say. And so you're carrying 500 rounds for the machine gun.
Wow. And what kind of a machine gun was it?
It was .30 caliber, Browning machine gun, .30 caliber.
How'd you like
What
that?
you call lights. The heavy ones are Browning also, but they were water cooled, quite heavy. You only usually use them in defensive position. The machine gun weighed, I think, 39 pounds, something like that. The big one weighed almost 50,
Wow.
or almost 60. See, the way you work it, the gunner carries the gun, or the gunner carries the tripod, the assistant gunner carries the gun. So when you move the gun forward, you run, you throw the tripod out so it lands, you know, in the right position. Then the gunner comes up and puts the tripod, or the spindle down in the tripod, and then he inserts the belt. You pull the handle back twice, and you're all set to shoot then on it.
And where did you train? Do you remember?
Well, I was at Paris Island. That's my boot camp.
Right.
Then I went to a little, what they call tent city near Camp Lejeune. We lived in Quonset huts there for a while. Then we transferred out to California with a little base called Linda Vista near San Diego. It wasn't a permanent base, it was just for wartime. Then we were transferred out to Pearl Harbor
Mm-hmm.
And they put me in put me in an MP outfit, transferred me to Maui. And of course I didn't want to be an MP, so as soon as the 4th Division got back from Saipan Tinian, then I transferred to the 4th Division. They were looking for volunteers because they lost a lot of men on Saipan Tinian. And then we stayed there for a while. Of course, you're always, you know, you go on maneuvers and you're always...
You're talking about Saipan or Tinian?
No, Maui.
Maui. That's in the Hawaiian Islands, right?
Hawaiian Islands. After I joined the 4th Division, then we went on a maneuver in the desert area, and we went into a jungle area on Maui. There were two different areas. One that rained all the time, the other one that was dry as a desert. And of course, you're always using a machine gun, practicing with it, throwing grenades, shooting a rifle. So you keep them training for that guard duty. Map reading, which I hated.
Yeah.
On it. You go on long hikes, 20-mile hikes are a normal thing.
Wow.
On it. That's why I never went up on top of the mountain there that had the volcano. We were about halfway up on the volcano. I never went up to see it because I had enough hiking.
Yeah.
On it.
So, where'd you go when you shipped out of there?
We went to Pearl. We were getting ready to go to Iwo, so we went to Pearl, and they stocked up at Pearl. I guess there's a reason to stay there for a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And then we headed for Iwo. A whole bunch of ships joined us.
So this is 1945 then?
That was 1945.
Yeah.
So I stayed in Maui from, 44 to 45. So my 18th birthday there.
On your 18th birthday you were there?
I was there.
Wow.
I was about 18 and a half when I actually hit Iwo.
Did you? Wow. Pretty young.
Well, we had 17-year-olds come in, but they won't allow that now. They have to be at least 18 to go into combat.
Were they legally in the service then, or?
Oh yeah.
17-year-olds?
Yeah, you can go in. I went in at 17.
Did you?
On it. The only thing is they don't want them that young to go into combat. On it.
But they did then, right?
They did then. Yeah, they've changed the law, the rules since. Which is a good idea.
Yeah. Did so do you remember I guess when they told you were heading towards Iwo Jima, I mean, what did they tell you? Did you know? Did you guys know it was going to be as heavily fortified as?
No, they didn't. Of course, the Japs had prepared that island for 40 years, but we didn't know it was that bad a deal. We were told it'd be a 4-day deal.
Now, when you say prepared it for 40 years, what do you mean?
Digging tunnels. It was about 4 or 5 floors down, all connected by tunnels, all kind of bunkers by the dozens or maybe even hundreds. So they had the island well prepared for an assault.
So they had been preparing for this moment for years and years and years before World War II?
Yeah.
And
we had to have the island because our planes were flying from Saipan to Japan, and on the way the planes from Iwo were intercepting our planes and knocking them out of the sky.
The Jap planes.
The Jap planes. And also they were probably, I think they were getting bombed at Saipan once in a while. A plane would come in, and they were coming probably from Iwo.
Wow.
And if a plane had trouble, just motor trouble, they would have to ditch and lose the crew maybe and lose the plane. So it was important to take Iwo.
It's like a stepping stone.
Yeah, and as I said, it was only figured a 4-day deal, and then we were supposed to help them out at Okinawa. But of course it ended up 30 some odd days on it.
Now, didn't it get pounded before you guys landed?
Well, they pounded it quite a while before that. I think we lost an aircraft carrier off that too, and other ships. And they pounded the devil out of it, but the trouble was the enemies down below where it was safe. You couldn't touch them, you know. Well, they got some on the surface. They knocked out the bunkers, some of the bunkers and stuff that they could hit on the surface.
Is this Navy guns in the Air Force, or?
The Navy guns, yeah. And the
Navy
Marine
planes.
pilots.
Right.
I suppose they had naval pilots too.
Right. That's what I meant.
They had what they call Corsairs, and they were a beautiful blue plane, propeller driven.
Mm-hmm.
And They had rockets on them, napalm. They were well-equipped machine guns, 50 caliber machine guns. And they provided us a lot of bear cover on Iwo, but couldn't do much about the caves
Right.
and stuff.
When you're doing the actual fighting there.
Well, we didn't realize that these things were interconnected till we thought we knocked some out. Then you go by them and go on to the next ones, and suddenly the Japs are firing at you from the rear and picking off your men. So then we figured we had to blow the caves in. The only way you could blow them in was with a satchel charge. It's very much like a pack a kid would carry now, taking his books to school, loaded with TNT. They didn't have C2 and those explosives back then, plastic. It was, you know, dynamite, or I don't know if they had C2 or not, but I don't think I saw any. But it was very dangerous work. You'd pull when you get up close enough to throw the satchel charge in, then you'd pull a thing there and run like heck. But the trouble was, when you were trying to approach that cave or bunker or whatever, there might be another dozen of them that's the Japs are firing from that are trying to pick you off.
Really?
So that's why we lost so many men.
Another dozen what?
Caves or
Oh, I see.
bunkers or whatever, you know. You couldn't keep them all pinned down. The almost a third of our men that went ashore on Iwo we lost there, wounded and killed. So that's quite a lot of men to lose.
They weren't expecting that either, were they?
No, no.
I mean, they knew it wasn't going to be easy.
The Japs, there was two different figures that they gave how many Japs were lost, but I think the right figure is a little over 100, and I don't believe all of them were not lost, but that we took prisoners. There was 25,000, I think, that died. But of the over 100 there that we took prisoners, so I think a lot of them were Korean labor. You know, they were forced labor.
Right. Was the Japs, they just didn't surrender, or what?
No, they didn't surrender. I believe they had their Marines there. I know I saw one there, and I says to my buddy, "Are they that big?" He was huge. He was a good 6 foot. And I said, "Boy, is this what we're fighting?" You know, and because I was expecting to see little tiny guys, you know, like yeah, but they were big men. They must have been Marines,
dead,
possibly. Jap Marines, yeah.
Were they dead when you saw them, or prisoners?
Yeah. I started to search them, then I thought better of it because they can booby trap them, booby trap the bodies.
And you were searching them for what?
For souvenirs.
Yeah. And you showed me this.
Yeah.
It's a coin.
Well, that one there, I think I was able to bring the pocket out. Usually, if there's any resistance, you don't fool around.
Yeah. Because it might be booby trapped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even our own bodies can be booby trapped.
So they booby trap American U.S. Marines?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's terrible. Having to walk by.
I didn't see any of this happen on Iwo, but what the Japs had was a trick was they have a machine gun strapped to their back and some kind of a weapon, and then they'd come up pretending that they were going to give up, and then one would kneel down, the other one would start manning the gun. That was a favorite trick.
Okay.
And I guess another trick, they'd have grenades under their arms, so you make them raise their hands and the grenade would come down, you know. They had tricks like that.
So they knew they were going to die too, though.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to fight an enemy like that, isn't it?
Yeah. There was a bunch of school kids there. I didn't see them, but I don't know if I'd even recognize they were school kids. Were there visiting, and they got caught there, and I guess they died there too.
Japanese school children, you mean?
Japanese, probably teenagers, you know.
Because it was like an air base for the Japs?
Yeah, it was a big air base. They had they had a main airfield. Then they had, I think, another one, and then there was a third one they were working on. On it. That's where I got wounded on the one they were working on, the unfinished airfield. They had Mount Suribachi, which was your highest peak.
Right.
Which the 5th Division took. And then we went at the next highest peak, which is we Hill 382. You just named it by height on that one. And the day I got hit, my company went against it. They lost half the men and had to pull back.
How many men were in your company?
Usually a little over 100, probably.
So your company went up and got...
Or wait a minute. let me revise that figure. I think we figured about 50 men to a platoon, and then there'd be 3 platoons plus the machine guns. So it could be over 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So how many days were you actually on there, or before you got wounded?
The 12th day I got nailed. I went on February 19th, and I was hit on March 2nd. Early in the morning, first thing in the morning before we even were getting ready to jump off against 382. Now 382 was honeycombed with, there were dozens of caves and bunkers and stuff on Hill 382, so they had an awful tough time taking that. An outfit tried to take it before we were there, and they got pretty well wiped out.
Did your outfit take it?
I don't know. I don't know if they did or not, because I never see anything in writing.
Yeah.
They probably went back to the beach and had to get reinforced, because, as I say, they lost half the men there. The Japs had tanks, but they didn't use them as tanks. They buried them up to the turret and then used them as bunkers.
Really?
On it, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Defensive position?
I don't think they wanted to go against our tanks, you know, tank to tank.
Right.
Our tanks took an awful beating there. They got hung up in the sandy ash there, and then the mortars and artillery would lay in on them and wipe them. I watched one day there on the side of the cliff there, and they were just one after another getting wiped out.
Really?
Yeah.
Just kind of get stuck in the...
Yeah, yeah. They couldn't maneuver in that stuff. On it.
Oh, was it black, like you say?
Well, it was hard to walk in, you know, when we first hit the beach. It was sort of black, you know, like regular sand. Then another thing you had to worry about, you'd see yellow, was the sulfur. A lot of guys got burnt from the sulfur there.
Just a natural sulfur in the ground?
From the
volcano?
Volcano, yeah.
And you'd be digging foxholes and stuff like that? And
yeah, and
getting down
you'd
in
look
it?
down towards the water and it'd be steaming.
No kidding.
From the, from it, yeah.
Wow. How could, you must imagine must have been hot inside those Japanese bunkers inside the hills and stuff.
I didn't really notice that too much because the nights were awful cold.
Oh, they were?
The days were warm and the nights cold there, and there was no cover, no cloud cover. Rain. That was a bad problem in combat like that. You're trying to keep your head down, the rain's coming up in your foxhole.
Really? It was raining a lot?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably the rainy season or something, huh?
Yeah, I had a D-bar. What they call a D-bar was a chocolate bar that was reinforced with minerals and vitamins. And I was saving it for a time when I was real hungry and the water kept coming up, so I was forced to eat it. And
while you were in your foxhole?
Yeah, yeah.
Jeez.
We had a guy in our squad there, our platoon, that could see at night. I don't know what there was about his eyes. So he'd pick off gooks, you know, that were trying to sneak up on us, and of course we didn't know what to think, you know. And next morning you'd see the gook laying out there dead, the Jap. And he had just like cat's eyes. He could see in the dark. Something about his eyes.
Wow. It's good to have him around, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, our job when we went in, we went straight towards the airfield. It was a huge beach there, I guess almost a mile long. And we headed towards the airfield, then they called us back. And then it was our job to go take the cliffs to the right. And the bunkers were in there, and the Navy had already wiped them out, which was lucky because there was big guns in there. Well, lucky for the Navy because there were pretty heavy guns there.
Yeah.
And I think I took part of a sight off one of them there, and I ended up giving it to somebody on the hospital ship.
A sight off one of the Jap guns?
One of the Jap guns.
So you went into these bunkers?
Do what?
Did you go into the bunkers after they were...
we walked right through them.
Did you?
It was the only way to get on the other side.
Oh.
What was funny, after we went through the bunkers, there was a motorcycle there, and I believe it was one of our motorcycles from maybe back in the 30s or something. It was all shot up.
No kidding.
On it, yeah. I thought that was quite a sight.
Japanese having an American motorcycle to get around.
Then there was a road that went over a culvert, and some Japs trying to hide in the culvert. We tried to talk them out, and they would shoot at us. So we end up I think we shot in there, and I don't know, we might have thrown a grenade in there, and then we called in a flamethrower, and that finished them off.
Oh, really?
If the flames didn't get them, then the lack of oxygen would collapse their lungs.
Oh, I see.
So it kills them pretty fast.
So you had to call that in, you say?
Yeah, you have the flamethrowers with you all the time, just like machine guns are with the platoon on it. It was one job I don't think I would have wanted.
Why not?
All I could think of was a bullet hit the right place on those things, they'd probably explode.
Oh.
I never saw any do that. But
What did they have in the tank? It was like napalm or something?
I don't know what the combination. I suppose I think it was a double tank, and probably it's like you're settling or something.
Hmm.
They had tanks that had flamethrowers, but I never saw them. I never saw them in action. On it. When you see pictures of Iwo, you do see those flamethrower tanks, but I never saw them. No. There was a shack up there once we got over the top, and we kind of, had to go easy. We didn't know it'd be booby-trapped or not, and luckily it wasn't. And there was all kind of, like our books, showing the pin-ups. They had those,
yeah.
only all Japanese, pretty girls, pretty Japanese girls. Then there was a low table. They sat on the floor. They didn't have chairs,
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was made of teak wood. It was a long, low table. And I said to my buddy, I said, boy, that's worth a lot of money if you had it.
Yeah.
On it, yeah. There was a lot of stuff in there in the shack there. But we didn't dare to fool around too much with anything because we were afraid of booby traps.
Were they dead in there?
I don't think there was any bodies in there. I think they cleared out
Yeah.
on it.
Hmm.
Imagine the airplanes did a job on that.
Yeah. I was reading this, one of the stories you were saying was about the souvenir hunter went in and got nailed.
In the cave there. That was down below the cliffs.
Yeah.
We'd moved down below the cliffs to neutralize. I guess we had to go to aid of another company that was getting pretty beat up down there.
Mm-hmm.
Between the cliffs and the water. They had, well, it was like a horseshoe in there area, and the ships couldn't help us there firing because they were blocked by the terrain.
Right.
So the company went in and tried to wipe out the pillboxes and bunkers and caves, and they got pretty beat up, so we had to go to their aid. And one of our men went in the cave there, apparently souvenir hunting. It's a very foolish move, because I wouldn't have wanted to go in one of them caves like that. And his buddy came along. He thought, he didn't know his buddy was in there, and the guy comes out, and his buddy thought it was a Jap and shot him right between the eyes.
Wow.
So then, of course, he cracked up, and that was the end of the 2 men. We lost 2 men on a very foolish deal.
Yeah.
On it.
Was he in your platoon or your squad?
In the company, I don't think it.
Company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were all moving up together on that kind of situation. One of the flamethrowers, we used the flamethrower blasted into the cave there, and apparently it was storage for airplane fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And the flames went right up the cliffs there, about 100 foot there, and we ran like rabbits there. One guy threw his rifle down and his gear and headed for the beach there. Then when it died right down, so apparently there wasn't much in there. So when he come to dragging back, his sergeant really chewed him out for throwing his rifle like that.
Oh, yeah. He's scared.
We got a laugh out of that one.
Yeah.
I almost stepped on what looked like a grenade. Looked like a plastic thing, and I think it was probably a gas cylinder the Japs had just in case they wanted to use gas on us.
Oh, yeah?
And so we marked it, I think, so somebody wouldn't step on it, because I imagine if it busted, it might suddenly just turn into vapors and be poisonous.
Wow.
So we had to worry about things like that on it.
So I'm reading this other thing about you actually saw one of the Japanese
Yeah, we were going...
making a motion to you? Or making a motion to somebody else?
We were up on top again.
Yeah?
And going along the edge of the cliff, and I was a little bit back with the machine gun. As an ammo carrier, you didn't stay right up on line there, because there wasn't that much room in Iwo. And there was a little piece of land jutting out, so I said, I went out to see what I could see in front of our men. And the Jap, I could see from the waist up, and he was giving a motion, you know, like there's somebody on the other side, Americans on the other side to somebody. He was motioning to somebody, and apparently they were going to get ready to throw grenades or something. And so I didn't trust the carbine. The carbine was not a very good weapon. And especially if the Jap was sackied up or drugged up, you know. So I called one of the guys over that had an M1. They're pretty heavy caliber. And he wouldn't believe it at first. It was a Jap that close. It was only a few feet away. And the Jap, we were behind bushes, so the Jap didn't spot us. So I says, 1, 2, 3, we'll drop him. So I counted 1, 2, 3, and we both shot. I shot twice, he shot once, and the Jap sort of stood sideways, so we got him. And then we alerted the guys up front there, you know. He ran and alerted the guys to watch out, so they threw grenades over, and no more trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Geez, if you hadn't been looking, it would have been the other story, probably, right?
Yeah, they probably would have been throwing the grenades on it, but they didn't get a chance to do that. Or they might have banzaied even, you know.
What's that?
We only saw one banzai, and I only saw one while I was there at night. The Japs will get up and they'll charge you and they'll be hollering banzai. I guess, I don't know, what, die for the emperor or something, I don't know exactly what it means. And, you know, they try to overrun your line, but it didn't amount to much, and a lot of them tried to swim around and get around the back of us, and the Navy took care of them out in this ocean there.
Okay.
Probably destroyers. Near the end of the battle, long after I'd gone, they did make a banzai in daylight, and our troops mowed down quite a few of them there. And of course that shortened the battle then.
That was at Iwo?
On Iwo. If they'd only come out like that on us all the time, we would have been a short battle, but they're staying in their caves. That cost us a lot of men to get them then.
Yeah.
On it.
So, like, do you remember what it was like when you got hit? I mean, do you remember it?
I was in a kind of a shallow place there, and I was going to run up to join my, you know, my outfit was a little bit ahead of me, my machine gun. So I was getting ready to go up and join them, because we were getting ready to move out. And all of a sudden the sniper was putting shots right by my head. I could almost feel it, you know, and it was so direct that it hurt your ears. And but he wasn't hitting me. He put several shots by my head, so I thought I'd better run, you know. So I zigzagged. Of course, you zigzag, make yourself a hard target. And next thing I know, I'm flying through the air. A machine gun had got on me, and he was using explosive bullets. And so luckily, I landed in what you call a 5-inch shell hole. Our guns on the destroyers were 5-inch. In other words, they're 5 inches diameter across the shell. Like the battle wagons, that's 16 inches diameter across that shell. That weighs a ton.
Big ones, yeah.
And so I looked down at my leg, because I realized the leg had been hit, and I could see the bone, and you could put your fist in into it. Then just above it was a graze on the muscle, and that's all I noticed at that time. So then I heard, I think I could hear the guys in the next hole, in the 16-inch shell hole, so I think I hollered over to them, you know, I'm hit, you know, or they hollered to me and asked if I was hit. I wasn't feeling any pain. I was in shock, you know. As bad as it is, it was no pain that I remember. And so then I heard somebody running, and somebody popped down on me, and the machine gun was trying to get him, and it was my sergeant, section leader. And he says, how bad you hit? And I says, pretty bad. Well, he saw the graze on the upper part of the leg, and that's just a scratch, you know. I said, take a look down below. And he'd let out a thing there. I think he said Jesus, you know, and then he ran to the 16-inch hole. And then some more running, and this time another body landed on me, and it was a corpsman this time. And he tried to patch me up, but that machine gun kept trying to pick us on. So he says, I can't work on you here. I haven't got room enough, because it's very shallow. And He says, would you take a chance? We push you across to the 16-inch hole. It was only a short distance, maybe 10 feet. I says, sure. I says, I got to get patched up, you know. So he pushed against my good leg, and I'm trying to crawl. And the other guys in the 16-inch hole are reaching out for me. And one of them got a graze across the wrist. And he got lying in the hospital later, and he showed me the graze he got when he tried to reach out
Help you.
and help me. And so they got me in the 16-inch hole, and the machine gun all the time was trying to get us. It wasn't a very good shot, because I know if I had somebody in a position like that, the Jap, I would have had him.
Yeah.
Then they got me down the 16-inch hole, which is quite deep. It's about probably 6-8 feet deep.
Wow.
And quite wide. And then they worked on me and patched me up. Then they had to go because they were going to hit Hill 382. So all day I was there. I tried to swallow water. I couldn't. I'd throw it back up. I tried to eat, same thing. I noticed a funny sensation like something wet. And I knew they bound up the wounds good. And I said, gee, you know, that's funny, you know. I was, of course, worried about hemorrhaging. And I pulled up my pants leg, and there was a fountain about, I'd say about 1 inch or 2 high coming out of my kneecap. A piece of shrapnel had gone in there and apparently hit the artery or whatever's in there. And the only thing I could find on myself, of course my bandage had been used on my wound there, was some toilet paper. So I put that right on with pressure, and then it dried, you know, stuck there and stopped the bleeding on it.
So is that shrapnel something you got after they left, or?
No, I got the shrapnel the same time that I got the bullets.
But it wasn't bleeding when they patching up your other one.
Not that they noticed, you know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of blood anyways on the leg.
Yeah.
I didn't feel any pain. Of course, they shoved the morphine in you, and that pretty well numbs you. And then you're in such shock that, you know. I would say that I really didn't have any pain till I started healing. That was when the pain, you know.
Wow. So when you noticed that other wound that was hemorrhaging or bleeding on you, were you by yourself then?
I was by myself in the foxhole. I was there all alone. I looked back towards, there was some rocks back there, and some of our men were back there and stretcher bearers, but they didn't dare to send anybody out because there's so many bullets flying around.
The machine gun was still going?
And they didn't want to lose 4 men to save 1, you know, on it. Well, all kind of weapons were firing in because they were trying to pick our men off my company that was going against 382.
Yeah.
And of course I was right in line with it. I'd peep up and try to see how they were doing, but I didn't dare I'd stand up on my good leg there, but I didn't dare to stand up too much.
Did the Japs
I
take
put pressure on that and it shakes.
What, your arm?
Yeah.
Still?
It does, yeah.
From that?
Well, you see that's all blowed away there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. See, that's what
Oh, yeah.
that was from Korea. On it.
Did, like when you were in the hole, how long did you lie there, Art?
I'd say about 8 hours.
And then it got dark?
I was quite concerned. Well, it was getting near dark. See, they started right out at daylight, just after daylight. And you have long, you know, it was in the long daylight there. So I was quite concerned. Then I heard the firing. The firing kind of died down a little bit. Then I heard the firing pick up, and a lot of stuff was going by me there. And I didn't dare to raise my head, and people started streaming by me. And of course, I was quite concerned then because I thought they'd go back to the rocks and leave me out there. And then the gooks would get me, the Japs. So, but my sergeant come along, and he says, "Are you still here?" And I says, "Yes." I don't know how he got me out of the 16-inch hole, whether he pulled me up and then carried me out. But he says, "Can you want to take me a chance to carry you out?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to get out of here." And he says, "Can you stand up in that one good leg?" And I said, "Yes." So he put me in a fireman's carry and carried me out under fire on it, which was lucky for both of us.
How much did you weigh then, do you remember?
Probably about 135 on it, 145. When we moved in that position, an awful thing happened. As I say, the outfit that was there had got pretty badly beat up. We got up there and it was still dark. You know, you could see a little bit. They might have had searchlights maybe from the ships or something. You could see a little bit. And so they hollered, "Get in the foxhole, it's getting daylight." And I started to get in the foxhole, and I see the guy's legs there, and I followed up his body. I was going to say to him, "I'm going to get in with you, okay?" You know. And I come up his body, and everything seemed normal. His rifle was sitting by him like he was on guard.
Was it during broad daylight, or?
This very early morning, very low light, very low light.
Mm-hmm. And
I got up to his neck, and that was all there was. Apparently, in my story there, I said that I thought he got shot off, but I think probably a Japanese officer got him with his samurai sword there. Just chopped his head off.
Why would he do that?
Well, you know, to kill him.
Wow.
Probably snuck up on him and...
The officers carried swords like that?
Yeah, they carried their swords. One of our guys found one of those swords, and it had jewels in it. It was a good one.
Wow.
And I said to him, I said, "You still got your sword?" Now, he buried it and was planning to go back to it, which I think was a fool. I would never have let that sword get away from me.
How could you carry that during the battle, though?
Well, you could use the same belt that they did, you know. In fact, that would have been a good souvenir, too. And he buried it, and I often wondered, because people were coming along with the what do you call it there, you know, your metal detectors. Yeah. So I imagine somebody got a nice, easy souvenir, didn't even have to duck bullets to get it. You know? Yeah. It's too bad.
Wow.
Another incident that happened, one of the guys got a... Now, the Harry Carry knives look like a piece of wood. Look like just a block of wood.
That they would use to commit suicide?
Yeah. So one of my buddies got one on Saipan or Tinian off a Jap.
Uh-huh.
So he had showed it to me. So on the way to Iwo, he said to me, when we get back to Maui, he says, the Hawaiian Islands, "Would you like that?" I said, "Don't you want to keep it?" "No," he said, "I'll give it to you." I said, "Sure." So of course I never got it on it, you know.
Jeez. Who carried those? The officers, or all of them, or what?
The officers, because they're the ones that would commit Harry Carry.
Right.
If they dishonored themselves, you know.
In that kind of a situation.
Rather than give up. The general that was in command of Iwo, that's what he did. He committed Harry Carry.
Right there.
Yeah, down in one of the caves on it. Yeah.
So how long did the actual battle go on for, Art? You got
I think it was something like 32 days on it.
And it was only supposed to take 3 or 4.
Supposed to take 3 or 4. Then we were supposed to maybe help them if they needed on Okinawa.
Yeah.
We had the 3rd, 4th, and 5th on Iwo, and the 1st, 2nd, and 6th was taking Okinawa.
When did they start Okinawa? After Iwo? Or
I don't know if it was towards the end of Iwo. It was around that period. Yeah.
They didn't have it easy there either.
They walked in, I guess, but they had it tough after that.
Yeah.
Places like Naha, the capital of Okinawa. A general that I served under, he was the one that went in and took Naha there, I suppose with the 1st Division. And he used to tell us a lot about how tough the battle had been there. And they had some bad hills there, you know, that give them trouble.
Yeah.
On it.
But those were the stepping stones towards the end, right?
Oh, yeah.
Japs
you should see that sea out there, loaded with ships, all kinds.
Oh, yeah.
The destroyers, when we had a chance, you know, we sat there and maybe waiting in the lull of the battle or something. We watched the destroyer, and he was working on some targets there. And they have 5-inch guns in the front, too.
Right.
The destroyer escort, I think, has a 5-inch in the front and 5-inch in the back. Well, the destroyer has 2 in the front and 1 in the back. So he was coming in towards the shore with both of those guns opening up, and I swore he was going right up on the beach. He got so close.
Wow.
Then he'd turn the ship around, and then as they pull away, the rear gun would go. And I said to my buddy, it reminded me of a hornet, you know, the way he was attacking there.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's good to have those on
Quite
your
a
side.
sight, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those, you didn't get much sleep. You never get much sleep in combat. Any combat like Korea, you're lucky to get 2 hours sleep if you're in actual combat with the enemy. And that sleep's not too good because you're pretty shook up. On Iwo, to make it worse, when those, you know, those shells from the battle wagons weighed a ton, 2,000 pounds. When they exploded, you would actually be lifted off the deck several inches. And so I did a lot of cussing on Iwo, the cussing the Navy there for keep me awake.
Trying to sleep and boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Yeah. Mount Suribachi was quite a sight too, and you know you could watch that going on. They put spotlights on it at night, and they were pounding with everything they had. They 20 millimeters, 40 millimeters, 5-inch guns,
Wow.
the 16s. They were really pounding it on the. I don't know if it was doing any good because the Gooks had the caves and the stuff, but they were really working it over.
When did the flag go up?
About the 4th day.
So you were there when that happened?
I didn't actually see the flag go up. We're pretty well inland by that time from the cliffs, and I volunteered another guy to go get some food for our platoon. And as we approached the top of the cliffs, I looked over at Mount Suribachi, and there was the flag flying. And I said to my buddy, not knowing it was going to be so famous, I says, what in the devil they got that thing flying for? Only I used some different language. Or no, I said, what in the devil they got that flying for? We haven't even started to take this piece of, and that was the language there on it.
Show the picture here
Yeah.
to the camera. That's the famous picture.
Can you get it all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Should show them that print.
Yeah. You got it on the wall over there?
Here, I'll bring it in. I moved it so it'd be easier to.
Oh yeah. There it is. Joe Rosenthal.
Yep, that's his actual signature. Can you come in and get the signature?
Let's try it. Down at the bottom. Iwo Jima, 45. AP photographer. Yep.
And then the picture of me
Down here.
was when I was,
Young or 18-year-old?
I think I was 17 at that time. Right
That's
after
when you
boot
went
camp.
in?
Right after boot camp.
Right after boot camp.
That would be 1944.
Yeah. Your poem?
Yeah,
I
that's my
remember
poem
you.
there.
Yeah.
I had that picture taken. They gave us a choice. They wanted machine gunners down in camp, the tent near Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
They wanted volunteers for machine guns. Well, I wanted to be a machine gunner then, but the only thing was if you took the opportunity to be a machine gunner, you couldn't come home for a week before you went overseas. And that was around Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
So I elected to come home, and some did volunteer to be machine gunners. They probably went to Saipan Tinian.
Yeah.
So I elected to come home, and that picture was taken when I was home. My parents were working in the factory in Schenectady, the GE, and that's where I had the picture done in the photo studio there on it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, that was before I ever got any good medals.
Yeah. Well, you're not wearing them there.
No, I'm wearing my, see those sober, that's what you call boot camp medals.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Grenades and shooting and whatever.
Right. So when you got wounded, they ship you right out, or?
You mean on Iwo?
Yeah.
The sergeant carried me back to the rocks, and then they put me on a stretcher. I believe, it's been a while, but I believe they had a Jeep. I don't know if you ever saw pictures of it. They had a Jeep where they could put the stretchers on the Jeep. And
Yeah.
I believe that's what they put me on, because they had a road that went around the cliffs there and drive down around the bottom of the cliffs. Now, we had rockets going off. Rockets were something new then. and there was a lot of rockets flying over our head. They were firing.
Who was firing those?
Our people. And when they got me down the bottom of the cliffs, that's where those rockets were. You've seen those.
That's where they were launching from?
Yeah, they had those, you know, tubes there, 30
Yeah.
or 40. And they were launching them from there, and there were a whole bunch of us laying there waiting to be transferred down to the beach and put on a landing craft. Talking about rockets, the Japs had a huge one. It was like an airplane. And they would fire it, I guess, from cave or somewhere, and most of them went over Mount Suribachi and landed in the ocean, luckily for us.
Mm-hmm.
After I think a day or two after I was wounded and taken out, one landed on near some of our people and buried them. Actually buried them. The explosive was so big.
Wow.
And our people had to dig them out before they suffocated in the sand.
Wow.
So anyways, from the position down below the cliffs, then I imagine they probably loaded me on an urge jeep there and then took me down. And you had the same landing craft that you came in on. They were taking the wounded out in. And it was full of wounded. Had one guy on there that had cracked up. He was completely gone, you know, insane. He was hollering, yelling, and I think they had him in a straitjacket. He was really, really gone. It'd been too much for him. They got us out to the ship, to the hospital ship, but I don't remember how we were brought aboard the ship. I don't remember exactly. But I remember being in a bunk, and next to me, in some kind of a bunk there was a guy that had his leg was badly infected, gangrene, and I was very lucky I hadn't had it set on me sitting there in that hole all day.
Mm-hmm.
Under the heat. The heat was bearing right down, there was no shade. So anyways, he had gangrene in his leg. They took him away. When they come back, his leg was gone from the knee down. When he came to, they say that you can still feel the leg there. When he came to, he reached down, apparently thinking he had pain there where the leg had been, and when he realized the leg was no longer there, he went right out of his head on it, screaming, yelling. I watched the doctors, from where I was, I could watch the doctors operate. It was a table, and there was like a trough around the table. And what fascinated me, there was blood in the trough, and as the ship rolled, the blood would go back and forth, and that was really fascinating me to watch that on it and watch the doctors. They finally got to me, and I said to the doctor, I says, I believe I said to him, I've got a good one for you, Doc, because the one that was ahead of me apparently couldn't take the pain too good, and he was screaming and hollering at the doctor, and I could see the doctors, they work right around the clock, and they looked awful tired. And I said, well, to myself, when I get to there, I'm not going to give him a hard time, you know, he's got enough trouble. So when I got to him, as I said to him, I've got a good one for you, Doc, and I watched him there. It really didn't bother me. I could see him clipping with scissors around the wound, taking the jagged edges off.
They had you on morphine then, or what?
I don't know if that same morphine was working or they had time enough to put more into me. But I was conscious and watching him work on the leg. I wasn't feeling any pain. And I didn't give him no trouble. I was very lucky I didn't feel no pain to give him any trouble. Then they when they got done with me, they put me out on the side of the ship where I could look out and see Iwo, sort of like a sun deck or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last time I see Iwo. We sailed for Guam.
Wow.
One thing that happened on the ship that wasn't very good, I had to go to the bathroom. So the corpsman says, well, he brings crutches, well, go. I'd never been on crutches before. And then with the roll of the ship, of course, I went right on the leg. And awful pain, and I did feel pain then. In fact, I almost passed out.
Wow.
And so after that, he didn't try to get me to go, you know.
Yeah.
I went on crutches once I was on solid land. The strange thing that happened to me was on the ship there. I knew I was safe on the ship, but after what I'd been through, I'd come out of a nightmare. I'd have a nightmare. And I'd look around, I could see the other people, you know, and the other bunks and stuff, but I still had that awful feeling. I'd be looking under my bed thinking there was a Japanese there going to come out and kill me.
Mm.
And that was what the feeling I had from that.
Did you ever get nightmares today?
I've had nightmares down through the years, but what happens now is I haven't had it lately, but when I worked at Finch and Pine, sometimes I'd be back and doing something and back in one of them battles for a few seconds, and I could almost smell the gunpowder, and I'd see all the action that happened. It'd be right back there again, just for a few seconds. If someone had waved their hand in front of my eyes, I wouldn't have known they were there. I was right back there in one of those battles. And that's what happens with the guys from Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
On that.
Yeah.
You know, but that hasn't. You know, I've got so now that like I don't mind war movies. They say this Ryan movie is bad, but I don't think it'd bother me.
Did you see it?
No, but I don't think.
Saving Private Ryan.
I think I might be a different person or something. You know, stuff didn't bother me that much.
Mm-hmm.
On it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the kids. They talked to Mr. Morrow there, Earl, the B-17 pilot. He hadn't seen it either.
I did quite a bit of drinking when I come back. I think most of them do.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I didn't get to be an alcoholic, thank goodness.
I tore up a few places too.
I found out one thing, that your drinking doesn't make you forget, it makes you remember more.
Yeah.
And so that's not an answer, you
No.
know. On it. Then I say time kind of tempered it, you know. On it. You still look back though, and you think, you know, your buddies got killed or something. I had one buddy there. When we were on Maui, here we were good buddies, and we had a fight over a little nothing, like teenagers do. And he got the better of me. I had to end up going to sick bay. I had 2 black eyes and pretty bad nose. In fact, I think he broke my nose. And I could lick him in a free-for-all. In fact, when the fight started, I pinned him down, and then he said I had him. Then when we stood up, he said to me I was a dirty fighter, so then I fought like he wanted to, which was a bad mistake. And but we stayed buddies. And on Iwo, I was coming back off the cliffs. We'd lost half the company by then. And he was just moving up, never been up there before. It was only a few days, maybe 5 days. And I warned him what to look out for up there, you know, any booby traps and how to handle himself there. And we had quite a conversation. And then I had to move out, and he had to move out. And a few days later, I saw his outfit, and I said, well, I forget his name now. He's from Albany. I can't think of his name now, but I asked where he was, and they said that in the morning got up on mine, the sniper got him right between the eyes. So he never suffered a bit. He was dead before he hit the ground. I thought I'd go on and talk to family, and hindsight now, I should have. I should have went and said, he never suffered, see, which would have been a nice thing to tell him. But at the time, I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't do it. I know.
That's hard. It's real.
Yeah. You know.
You know.
Funny thing was, I found out afterwards, I guess he did a little boxing in the ring there, amateur.
He cleaned up.
And I was still throwing roundhouses, so that's why he got the better of me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be tough to lose your friends like that.
Yeah. Yeah. When we got back to rest there, a buddy of mine, we decided to go down to where the artillery was, down on the beach. And there was no place safe on Iwo. Iwo was only 4 miles long, so any gun could reach any end, you know, anywhere. So those guys weren't any safer than we were. In fact, they might have been more dangerous than we were, because they'd try to knock out the artillery and the supplies. And when we started back, there was several hundred of the 5th Division men laying there. They were getting ready to bury them. Bulldozers making a big place there. You know, that was a sad sight.
Aye, it must have been sad.
Yeah.
I suppose you've never been back, Art, have you?
No, a lot of people have gone back, but I thought maybe I'd like to, but they say the Japs now don't seem to want you too much. Back in the 40th anniversary, the Japs welcomed them pretty good.
Did they?
But I heard that the 50th anniversary, the Japs weren't very hospitable. So,
They were hospitable then either, were they?
well, they welcomed us.
Well, yeah, they sure did, right?
Yeah.
But how do you feel about, you know, Japanese people today?
I had no hate to them. I had no hate towards any enemy I fought.
Mm-hmm.
And I fought,
In Korea?
In
Chinese.
Korea, Japanese. I fought the Chinese. Probably had Russians fighting, or what do you call it? Their advisors.
Mm-hmm.
I never had any hate. Like the Japs, the way I figure it, they put up a good fight when the battle was over. I took prisoners in Korea, a lot of prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
They put up a good fight, and they were fighting for their reason. We were fighting for ours. When the battle was over, we treated them good. We didn't treat them bad. But when we got to Japan, we were on our way to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I got to talk to one that had been on Iwo.
Oh, really?
And in fact, I think no, that isn't where that money comes. I think I got a bill in there that he gave me, a Japanese bill. And I only had a couple, so that's why I didn't give you one of those. But we were talking about Iwo, you know, what it was like there and everything, and I felt no bitterness towards him.
Yeah.
On it.
And that was probably, what, about 6, 7 years afterwards?
Afterward, yeah.
Yeah.
45, and that was what? That was 50,
He spoke English then?
51. Huh?
He spoke English?
Oh yeah, he could speak pretty good English.
Yeah.
And there's certain words they can't say, so we had words for, you know, your password if you were out and coming back to the line or something that you'd use, and they usually couldn't say them. See?
Oh, I see. Huh.
Yeah, but he could speak pretty good English, not too bad.
Wow.
Same way in Korea, we had men there that were interpreters for us, and they could speak very good English. On it. You know.
That's what they learned in school probably too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna close it now, Art, because I have to pick up my kids, unfortunately. But I want to come back and someday get the Korea one too.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know there's a lot more.
There's a guy next door there, Tom Maley, that was in Anzio Beach. That might be interesting.
Oh yeah.
If you can get him to talk.
He doesn't like to talk.
Oh, I think he would like to talk, but I don't know if he'd like to do something like that.
Well, if you talk to him, let me know.
Yeah.
If he wants to do it.
Yeah, that would give you
put him in
another
touch with me.
beachhead, because that was a tough one, Anzio Beach.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to him.
Yeah.
Okay.